The Goods has an interesting question. He says, "Why not add females to the park if we have all this other stuff?" Um, Honestly, I've heard some things about why that hasn't been done yet. I feel almost positive it'll be in 2K21, but I think that there was and you can say that this is an irrational concept, but I've heard that there was concerns about some of the animations and things that would happen that could be construed as a male character being violent towards a female character, which in
Yeah.
my opinion is ridiculous because you have fighting games. I can't tell you how many times I punched Chun-Li in the face. Like it's happened a lot, right? You know what I'm saying? So and nobody thinks of it that way because it's a fighting game, right? But in basketball, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're
Well,
punching a real woman, and it's not. That's
I
it's
guess
this it's the same world really because it doesn't exist, and it's so I don't know. I think it's irrational, to be honest. And if that's the reason, which is what I was told on more than one occasion, that had something to do with it, I think that's kind of crazy. Also, I think, now this is not anything that I've been told. I think that we've already seen the gauge for the level of maturity when you look at the 2K community. These are not people who say the right things to people. Okay. When they start to when female characters come in, I really, really hate to see some of the things that are going to be said to them. I hate
well,
it because
well,
it's already happening and they don't even have female characters, right? If they
yeah.
find out and they see that you're a female, people are literally abusing these women and these girls verbally. They are. I've seen it. I literally have seen it on multiple occasions, right? So you have and so you want to know why T-shirt maker isn't in the game anymore? You
It
want to know
is.
why? Yeah, it was taken out at one point, or it
Yeah.
disabled, I believe, at one point. You don't want to know why? Because people are making T-shirts with swastikas on it
Hmm.
in the T-shirt
Yeah, I
machine.
saw some crazy stuff.
So
So, yeah.
people's ignorance will stagnate creativity and technological advancement, because I told my son, you always got to compensate for crazy, because you might have a creative thought. And then the next thought is, if I give this to these fools, what they gonna do with it? You know what I'm saying? Because I just had a cool thought about a story, right? Where, you know, I just came up in my mind with this killer, and it's totally fantasy. But this killer, this character would be so awesome. But then my next thought is, I could see somebody emulating that and going and trying to blow up a building. And then I asked myself, should I really, is me getting out this creative thought worth me feeding the mind of a psychopath? You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, man, that we at a real place like that. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I sometimes things are a way that they shouldn't be, but I don't know that we can ignore that they're that way. Now, do I say that they shouldn't have female characters because people are idiots? Absolutely not. But I understand
Well, they'll have to deal with people being idiots,
they're
though.
gonna have to
That's a
deal, and they're
whole
gonna have to figure out
bunch
a
of
way.
moderation. Now, I think there's other reasons for it. So first and foremost, we criticize NBA Live for reskinning basically male characters and
Hmm.
male animations, and the WNBA game isn't authentic in NBA Live. But when you see it in 2K, it's authentic, right? It's
Hmm.
if you are genuinely a fan of these players and this sport, this is awesome. And if you're not a fan of it, this is a nice window into it. The same way me playing FIFA is a nice window into soccer.
100%.
So when you see it done really well, you want it to start to get other things that the men's side, the NBA side has,
Hmm.
like, my league and my career. So here's the thing. In the park, it's fully integrated in my career. 100% one-to-one direct comparison. The
Hmm.
character that you are in your NBA career is the character that you take to the park.
Hmm.
and whatever their abilities are, it's regulated according to the NBA players.
Absolutely.
That's where your ratings are, right? So if you're 6'11", you're not really allowed to be Giannis. You're allowed to be these guys, though.
Mhm.
If you're 6'5", you're not, potentially allowed to be, say, James Harden. But here's how close you can get to James Harden. If the WNBA game was to get that, right? So the biggest and baddest woman in the WNBA is Brittany Griner, right? In terms of strength, size, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, overall, the overall athletes, as far as the bigs, she is the most elite athlete.
Correct. And then you've got on the guard side your Tarasis and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So if you were going to create a character for the WNBA that would be balanced for the WNBA, and then you took the character to the park, you're at a crossroads where you say, do I now boost that character's ratings to compete with these other characters, or do I have a different park, right? Do I have a different situation, or just leave it imbalanced where, hey, if you could, and here's the thing, this happens in the men's game already, right? Like smaller players are at a disadvantage in the park. If you're a 5'7" sharpshooter, you're at a disadvantage. People win with these characters. Some of these characters have tremendously good winning records, right? But it's at a disadvantage. And are you comfortable with an accurately represented female character competing with accurately represented male characters?
No, it won't be, and I think that's a conflict that hasn't actually been explored because here's the thing: Brittany Griner is 6'8".
Yeah.
She has an insane wingspan. Her wingspan would be an impressive wingspan, no matter if you're talking about man or woman. But you could make the argument Brittany Griner is not. I would say Brittany Griner is not the best player in the WNBA, right?
Yeah.
So Brittany Griner, I don't think is an NBA player. Some people had tried to make that argument early, but I don't think she is.
If Carmelo Anthony could hardly find a job.
Yes.
But continue.
Yes. I don't think she is, right? So you bring up a good point. Would people who are proponents of women being in the park and women characters in pro-am, would they be comfortable with them having the same scaling that every other player would have based off of their physical abilities that we've seen at this point in the basketball world, right? And I say the answer to that is no, because you know why? Because logic doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the way people feel when it comes to this situation. Because if 2K was to create a game and they were to allow women, female characters into into park and career and pro-am, and those characters did not have the same exact abilities that the men had, it would be worse than never putting women in the game at all. Because the backlash, there would have to be an immediate patch rushed out to get this thing equal.
But here's the problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is that the female game isn't good enough for you to be entertained. And the whole point of putting it in the game is to say, this is a version of basketball that is worth watching and worth engaging.
But that's exactly my point. Because what I'm saying is the logic doesn't matter, right? Because I totally agree with what you're saying. I 100% agree. But we know that when complaints come and when people call foul, it's not always about logic. It's going to be about whatever that perception is and however it's taken from those who have chosen to say that they're.
I understand that. But even when you talk about feelings, what is the correct feeling? But
I don't think
this is the question. This is the question. What's the correct feeling? That the WNBA should be treated with the same level of respect as the NBA, or that you should dismiss the WNBA and create a brand new character so that you can have a female skin in the park?
Well, here's what I think. And I somewhat agree with 1989 here. And I think I mentioned this to you a couple years ago, Books, when we had this conversation way before the league started. I said, you know what? People are going to say whatever they're going to say, but you know what? It's park. It's whatever. It's not a sim mode anyway.
But pro-am is.
But pro-am is. But it's an arcade mode. And to a degree, you could breach it out and push it to a place where you're like, it's a fantasy. So the same way that, you got a 5'8" guy at home who's 160 pounds making a 7'3" glass cleaner. That's not him either. He's not
Well, no,
able
it's not
to.
about whether that's him. It's about that 7'3" glass cleaner is balanced against Kristaps Porzingis,
Mhm,
right? So Kristaps Porzingis has a max speed that he can go, and when they're balancing for Park, they say, okay, you can't do anything, otherwise it's not fun for everybody else, right?
mhm,
And it's also not engaging for you to play these other modes because the character is fully integrated. That's why I brought up Pro-Am, Rec Center, Ante-Up. There's a balance issue across all of these modes. And
mhm.
so the thing is, if you're going to take the characters and separate them and rebalance them individually from the park, now you have a situation where you're changing the entire system to where people have two different characters. They have the character that they play in the park, and then they have maybe the other characters, the one they play for Pro-Am, the other ones they play for the NBA. You know what I'm saying?
See,
Like that's a different approach.
I don't think that the gender issue within 2K Park or Pro-Am should be taken too literal. I think that essentially it should be treated as nothing but a skin. So in the same vein that when you're playing Fortnite, no matter what skin you choose, you have the same physical abilities. You have the same you have the same access to the same weapons, the same everything. And I think that that's the way that 2K should approach it. We don't have to concern ourselves with there is no 7'3" woman ever to play basketball, play professional basketball. I don't that we don't I don't I think that that is applying a level of realism that is not necessary. I think that simply allowing the game to be played and to be played in a way that makes people feel good about themselves is purely the objective here. And if a woman wants to play the game and she wants to make herself 7'3" and play at the park, then that's fine. Now, I do think that perhaps in the NBA, at this point, there's never been a woman to play in the NBA, right? So I don't think, like, to your point, where you say you diminishing the WNBA, I think you are diminishing the WNBA if you have a female my career and she doesn't career path to the WNBA. Why not? Why is she not career pathing to the WNBA? Is the WNBA a lesser league? You know what I mean? So that, to me, if you're a young lady and you're playing basketball, that is your next step. Your next step is the WNBA. So I think that from in that aspect, I think they should career path to the WNBA in their my career. But I think that as far as going out in the park and the pro-am, I think they should be able to take their player to do whatever it is they want to do and play whatever modes they want to play. I just really don't think that we need to say, I got to cap you at Liz Cambage. I got to cap you at Brittany Griner. I don't think it's
I mean, but
necessary.
that's how they treat the male characters.
They treat the
You're
male,
capped according to Michael Jordan, Penny Hardaway,
but
LeBron
it's
James.
done that way to keep the game fair.
Yeah, but that's
Is
what I'm saying. But if you're my career character, goes through the WNBA. So that's what I'm saying. You split. You have two choices. Either the WNBA mode is going to be inherently less robust and less rewarding for your my player, or you have the female my players in the park as just a skin. And I think just a skin is more disrespectful. And honestly, I think there are people who would take a Diana Taurasi rated character and be like, I can beat you even though I'm shorter, but I still have a 99 shot. I still got Hall of Fame moving shot and all this other stuff.
but I
And
see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think that if anytime you create a male and a female character and you say you're not going to be as fast, you're not going to be as strong, and you're not going to technically have as good of a character as my character, and it's because you have a female character, that you're going in the wrong direction, especially from a business
but I
standpoint.
mean, but that's how it is in UFC.
You mean because they can't, the female characters can't fight but but I think that's
The UFC is the model though.
I,
But like, so UFC, everybody respects UFC women's divisions, right?
mhm.
Like it's great. Most people who are fans of sport are a fan of, Nunez and formerly Rousey and everybody else, right?
Right, right.
And when you go to the UFC, you want to be able to fully participate in the women's division.
Hmm.
You don't want to cheapen it by saying, you know what, I really want to fight Ronda Rousey versus John Jones. So go ahead and give me a 99 striking so that I can feel good. No, you feel good because you play the way their sport is played, the way that division is played, right? And then when you want to play a different division, you switch to that division.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the
I
sport
think
is totally respected both ways. Like,
I think it's different in a game. And in a game, if if there was a loud outpouring of a female community within the EA UFC community that says, I want to be able to use my female character fighting against the male characters. I want that to be made to happen. I think that EA would have a responsibility to facilitate that in their game. I do. Now, in real life, it's a totally different story because
well,
now we're talking about actual injury risk and concerns because this John Jones is 6'4",
so
200 some
real
pounds.
quick, so Crazy Girl is saying girls play ball in the parks all the time, so it doesn't have to be separated because it's separated according to division. I would agree with you if the thinking wasn't also that you want to artificially boost them away from the authentic sport that is also represented in the game.
But
Like if there was no WNBA in the game and you said just throw female skins in the game, I would say, okay, I get it. But there's a system for how the park and pro-am work with the NBA.
Yeah, I
So,
just think that they're already departed from reality. So why do we have to snatch ourselves up into sim mode for this? Because there's not. I mean,
well, I'm
they
just talking
got
about how the game is created. The game
right.
is created to obey these same laws.
Yeah, but
You're talking about new laws. You're talking about changing the game.
there's so much basketball that is disregarded in pro-am and I mean in park already, and so I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like it's an adherence that is unnecessary. That's what I feel. I feel like it's an adherence that's not necessary. If somebody wants to create a 7'3" female glass cleaner, you know what? At the end of the day, you still got to box her out the same way you have to box out the male character. It's just that's just what it is. Box her out. And it doesn't do anything to me. Of course, are there going to be a rash of YouTube videos that goes cooked by a girl? And it really isn't cooked by, I mean, yeah, it was a girl on the
But
sticks.
see, imagine this though. Imagine if, because here's the thing, Diana Taurasi can go to most parks. I mean, really any park and cook every dude in there.
Yes.
She
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
have to grow to be 7'3". She doesn't have to get a 99 speed. She could do it because she's super skilled.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If she goes to a gym full of NBA players, that's probably not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
But there's some guys that she would still give buckets to.
Yeah, she'll get a bucket, but she'll shoot 27% from the field.
Depending on who she's playing against.
I don't know any NBA player she'll play against that she won't shoot 27% from the field. She's too short. She's just too little, and she's not explosive enough.
There's certain NBA players I would love to see her try and cook, and maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But that's an interesting representation of the sport.
Cameron Payne would look like Michael Jordan against Diana Taurasi. She just,
yeah, and that's the thing. I think I like the route that they're taking. They're taking a dedication to the representation, a faithful representation of the WNBA. It's so much more interesting like that.
But see,
having women play like men is, and you're right, it is fantasy, but I don't think 2K is at its best when it's playing completely make-believe. I think 2K is at its best when it's trying to, as you said, obey basketball.
Yeah.
And real quick, the physical limitations are in the game for men as well, depending on what character you have. You can only be but so strong at what size. You can only be but so fast at what size. You know, you can only be but so skilled at dribbling and shooting at a certain size, right? It's
Mhm.
all balanced to feel like, okay, if I pick this, I have to give that up. If I pick this, I have to give that up. Now you're saying because women are involved, let's throw that out of the window and just say do whatever you want.
But see, here's the thing. I think like I don't really have a problem with your reasoning. I think I totally get it. But what I'm saying is from a business standpoint and from an adherence to your customer base and your consumers who are saying that because a lot of this is about perception, and Czar made a point. He says that I'm going to put it on the screen. He says Mazik doesn't seem to understand how insulting that would be to a woman in the WNBA to be enhanced just to compete in the park. And so Crazy Girl, who is a female 2K player, says it's not insulting, Czar. It's just an option. And then Czar says, I interviewed some of the top WNBA players and they said it's insulting. Now, my question is the customer base the WNBA players, or is it the girl at home?
Well,
The
the
same
customer
way.
base is 99% male. So
What I'm saying, what I'm saying is the WNBA player has a different perspective because they have a prayer to play in the league. They play on this level. They play at a professional level. So yes, they're not good. I don't need any enhancement. I'm already whoever I am. But that's not the average gamer. That's not the perspective that they're going to have. They're going and people who don't even play the game, who still have a voice, which is like the media is going to rip this to shreds if you create a situation where the female characters are not equal. And beyond all of the logic, beyond all of the thing that it doesn't match up and it's unrealistic, beyond all of that, 2K puts this in the game and female characters have a lower ceiling than the males. It is a freaking media disaster. And it doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter how good of a point anybody could make. The media is going to get this and say 2K has female characters in with lower ceilings than males. Why? And a bunch of people who don't know the game as well as any of us know it are going to take that and run with it. And 2K has to still take that into consideration before they do something, even though it might make sense to them. So, and Crazy Girl has a good point. Live already did it.
well, it's a good point for I don't know whose side because live is an abject failure. Like
but
the
it's
whole
not
point
a
of
failure
this.
because of that.
Well, but hold on. The thing is, though, we were all excited about the WNBA being in live.
Right.
And then when we saw that the women weren't accurately represented, our excitement went down. This gave them the freedom to put women to compete with their street mode with guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it also took away how realistic it looked when women did stuff. Because what woman are you going to mocap to do a between the legs 360 dunk, right? That's a human being that mocap to do that.
I don't think they care.
You saying you don't think they care, but what I'm saying is that the excitement for like when a WNBA player is like, check out 2K, she's like, I'm actually in 2K. This is how I look when I play. I don't look like LeBron James when I play. And women who look up to her, Candace Parker said it herself, I started looking up to Michael Jordan, right? But once the WNBA happened, I could look up to Cheryl Swoops and Lisa Leslie and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So now these girls are looking up to these women when they come up and be aspiring basketball players. And you saying, oh, I'm just going to mocap you with a dude's animations.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I can see why that's insulting. I can see why that's insulting because you're saying you can't have a sport, you have to play the men's version of the sport.
I can see why that's insulting to a smaller demographic whose voice won't be as loud as a lesser informed but larger demographic. I can't,
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The ignorance, I think, is going to be louder than the common sense. And so, And I'm not in any way saying, crazy girl, because you want this, that makes you ignorant. I actually think your point of view is potentially the most valid of anybody's in here, because you would be the person that's represented. There may be other ladies watching and chiming and listening right now, but you are a female 2K player. And to me, if you're saying that you wouldn't be offended, I think that actually holds more weight than anybody else. To me, that's just my thought. But it is what it is.
Well, again, the WNBA players have spoken on this, and they said they would be. So it's
right, but I think
women are individuals, just like men are. They're going to have some opinions. But crazy, one thing you seem to be confused on is that this character represents you. No, my career characters are representative of a possible NBA player right now. That's what they're representative of. The WNBA characters would be representative of the female my career characters would be representative of a possible WNBA player, unless they weren't a part of the WNBA ecosystem at all. So there's only two choices. Either the WNBA never gets to be fully fleshed out the way the NBA is and have a my career and all this other stuff, and that also has these other modes, a pro-am and so on and so forth, or you have some kind of conversion method, you know what I mean, where they get boosted and your character suddenly grows a whole foot. Because if you were allowed to be 7'3" and then play in the my career for the WNBA, it wouldn't be very challenging for you. I mean, the way, frankly, it's barely challenging if you play a 7'3" in the NBA as it is, because 7'3" is pretty cheesy. But
yeah. So I mean, and I think my man D Johnson had a really good point, and it's probably a good way for us to transition. He simply said, "You'll never please everybody."
Absolutely. Well, right now they're pleasing 12 million people, so they should be careful.
It's close enough, right? It's close enough. It's close enough.